So let's jump into some ETH, right? So again, ETH, we're looking at long-term, right? Let's just start. It's a good habit to get into, right? So often we just start carving up price and we only look back a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Long term, ETH has this really nice trend line where it did have this period of undervaluation, due in large part, in my opinion, because for the duration of this period, we were in kind of a pandemic. We were on lockdown, right? The rest of all other markets were struggling as well. But we've gotten back onto this trend line, and we're seeing really nice trajectory out of Ethereum, really nice growth out of Ethereum. Now, everybody's quick, for whatever reason, to jump on the ETH killer bandwagon and get really down on Ethereum and say, Solana, AVAX, Phantom, all going to kill Ethereum. Cardano, that's the biggest one. Right? Everybody's worried about something coming in and stealing Ethereum's market cap, Ethereum's number 2 spot. And while something could absolutely come in and become number 2 behind Bitcoin or flip Ethereum, find it pretty unlikely, right? Because Ethereum has a lot going for it right now. And that's not speaking negatively of these other layer 1 solutions that have really taken off and done a really good job of exploiting some of Ethereum's weaknesses, right? Beating Ethereum in certain areas like scalability or transactions per second, right? Or transaction fees. That's obviously the really big one. That's the elephant in the room when you start talking about Ethereum. However, with EIP 1559, if we go to watchtheburn.com, I like this website now, helps me keep track of the net reduction in Ethereum. I know it's a small number in the left-hand corner here, but you're going to see that Ethereum net issuance, or Ethereum's inflation rate, has decreased by 53%. And I know we've been hammering this home and talking about it over and over and over again, but it's extremely, extremely important, because when we see Bitcoin's, I'm going to zoom out here on Bitcoin. When we see Bitcoin's inflation rate, or net issuance, or mining rewards decrease by 50%, we see a massive bull market. We see Bitcoin get repriced. Usually it gets repriced because too far to the upside, and then it levels out to a new price level, right? And then we get another halving and it reprices and it levels out, right? We've seen this happen multiple times, 4 times now, actually. Right? And that's what's happening with Ethereum, with EIP 1559. That's not even accounting for Ethereum 2.0. So as far as monetary policy and tokenomics go, Ethereum has never been stronger, right? It's becoming more and more scarce. We're also seeing that a lot of the blue chip protocols, while yes, they can be copied and pasted over to Solana or copied and pasted over to other layer 1 networks, Ethereum, for the most part, has the majority of the liquidity, right? And it's got all of the blue chip projects and NFTs, right? And we're really seeing NFTs take off. Now, as far as shorter term price action goes for Ethereum, we're looking at a perfect bounce off of this 3x short level today, right? This 3x short level at $2,915, we wicked down to $2,913. So within actually $1.61 of this margin pressure level, we saw a bounce of Ethereum's price. And that's how strong these levels can be in terms of support and resistance. Now, are they perfect every single time? Absolutely not. But the next one we're looking at, if Ethereum's price can break down below this level, we're looking at roughly $2,550, right? Followed by a big resistance and support level, right? It's resistance on the way up, but it's support on the way down at roughly $2,160, right? Roughly $2,200 to round a little bit. So Ethereum's actually looking quite strong and handling this dip quite well. I'd like to see it bounce, and I'd like to see it get back up to retest its all-time high at around $4,400. And I think it can do that probably before a lot of other cryptocurrencies retest their all-time high. Speaking of all-time highs, Solana still very high above its trend line. Now, if you watch Token Metrics TV, which I recommend everybody does, or you watch this live stream, I'm a big fan of buying on the trend line. Big fan of buying on trend lines and buying at the bottom of channels, right? We had this channel on Solana that had, a couple great buying opportunities at around $20 to $22. Now, Solana right now, after it's just melted upwards, it's in a bit of a correction, understandably so. It also had some network difficulties. Network went down for 8 hours, and I'm not going to sit here and preach doom and gloom around Solana, right? I'm not going to sit here and say Solana's, going away. But what I would caution is, if you're in Solana and you haven't taken profits yet, I'm not saying to take profits in the middle of a nasty correction, but it's smart as Solana starts to get these bounces and maybe starts to channel. If you haven't gotten your initial investment out yet, again, this isn't financial advice, maybe consider taking that initial investment out. Like we said, there is risk that we get a little bit of a bear market and maybe we come back down to Solana's trend line. Now, if Solana does come back down to its trend line around $70 to $100, I would say that's a very strong buy, right? So, a lot of people can misinterpret what I'm trying to say about price action as a positive or negative sentiment about the actual project. It's not that I'm bearish or on Solana or don't think it's a good project. It's just that it's recently 11x'd, and it's usually not good to buy anything after it's completely melted upwards and 11x'd, right? Usually you want to buy when there's blood in the streets and when something's trickled back down to its trend line, right? Which, Solana had a fantastic start to the year, had a very nice run, and again, moved to $56, but it did come back down to its trend line, right? You could have bought it for more than 50% off, right? So it's more about just being smart with your entries, being smart with your price entries. I would recommend also taking a look at the visual trends indicator on Token Metrics, right? Taking a look and seeing this was in the TM grade. By the way, the TM grade flashed very high for this period of bullish price movement out of Solana. Actually, Ian, do you have that pulled up by chance?
The TM grade?
The TM grades or the visual trends indicator?
Let me work on that. Let me pull that up.
Oh, no worries. DOT. Now, we've recently seen a ton of layer ones just completely go off. Solana, AVAX, Phantom, Cardano, right?
Yeah. So one thing I want to chime in here first.
Yep.
So I've been here in New York the last basically 2 weeks, and the big trend I'm seeing now, lots of institutional investors are looking to hedge Ethereum. They're pro Ethereum, they're long Ethereum. However, they want to hedge Ethereum with other layer one projects. So this month has been really the month for L1s, layer one protocols, from Ethereum to Solana to Avalanche to Algorand. And the talk of town at the conference here in New York City, SALT, was Algorand. Basically, Wall Street is FOMOing into Algorand, primarily because it's a great blockchain for compliance and regulation, even to a point where I believe one of the SEC chair people said that they love Algorand, right? So people here, smart money, institutional investors, have been raising a lot of money. I think last week, Algorand announced raising $300 million for a DeFi fund. Anthony Scaramucci of Skybridge Capital announced that they plan to invest $250 million into Algorand and raise probably up to $500 million to invest into Algorand. And pretty much the whole conference was just a marketing piece for Algorand. And the irony is, pulling up my computer here, Algorand has also been picked up by our TM weekly indices. So our AI, our machine learning, is able to figure out the data based on what's happening in the markets, and is picking out this trend. And me here at the conference, I've also seen Wall Street pick up the same trend. So I think this could be the next hedge. I'm not saying this is going to replace Ethereum, but I think as a nice trade, as a short-term trade for a week to maybe a few weeks as a swing trade, watch out for Algorand, because people have seen what's happened with Solana, people have seen what's happening with Avalanche, and I think Algorand could be next. With all the money they're raising, I don't see how they don't do well, because if we backstep, prior to Solana taking off, they raised about $300 million from smart money, from a bunch of whales, bunch of VCs, and then it took off because once people were getting into NFTs and Ethereum, they were looking for ways to have faster transactions in NFTs. then Solana NFTs began taking off. So I think keep an eye out on layer 1 protocols like Avalanche and Algorand going forward.
Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.